Hello and welcome back to MMA Bar. Today, we're going to discuss the Gracies, widely known as the family that popularized Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, their exploits, popular matches, wins, and losses. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has a rich history, and it had many things that played a part in its development. One thing that played a big role in the evolution of BJJ was the Gracie Challenge. The Gracie family standing challenge helped shape what the martial art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is today. The Gracie challenge dates back to the 1920s when Carlos and Helio Gracie challenged other martial artists from Judo, Karate, and boxing to matches to show the superiority of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. A precursor to the Ultimate Fighting Championship or UFC, the purpose of these challenges was to prove the effectiveness of the Gracie style of BJJ over all other martial arts styles in an era before the advent of mixed martial arts. In the 1920s, Carlos Gracie was the head of a small but growing academy where he and his brother Helio taught the Gracie family adaptation of Kodokan Judo. Carlos was looking for ways to draw attention to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and follow the example of his teacher Mitsuyo Maeda by holding public matches against other martial arts. In the early 20th century, Vale Tudo fights were becoming popular in Brazil and served as the ideal venue for showcasing Jiu-Jitsu. Vale Tudo pitted two fighters against each other in matches with minimal rules and served as the forerunners of Western mixed martial arts. That said, these matches did not resemble modern MMA. Rules could range from simple mixed grappling matches to no-rules brawls. The matches typically featured a smaller Gracie versus a larger and/or more athletic-looking opponent, and they became increasingly popular. Carlos, his brother Helio Gracie, and both of their sons defeated martial artists of many different styles such as boxing, judo, karate, and wrestling while experiencing few losses. The challenges grew into major events in Brazil during the 1950s as the family defended their name and art. While the Gracies were victorious most of the time, Helio lost to both Kimura and Valdemar Santana in early MMA Vale Tudo contests. The fight against Masahiko Kimura was one of the most famous Gracie challenge fights and was a loss for the Gracie family. This fight took place in 1951 between Helio Gracie and Masahiko Kimura. Kimura was on a tour through South America and stopped in Brazil. During his stay in Brazil, Helio Gracie challenged Kimura to a grappling match. The judo champion accepted the challenge and the two had their match in Rio de Janeiro. Kimura would have a dominant performance and throw the smaller Gracie around the mat. Helio was put in a Gyaku Ude Garami but refused to submit and had his arm broken. Out of respect to Kimura, BJJ practitioners referred to the submission as a Kimura from that point on. In another popular contest, a famous Gracie challenge took place involving two different Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies, the Gracie Academy and the Fada Academy. Oswaldo Fada was a pioneer of BJJ and was taught by the martial arts co-founder Luis Franca Filho. Fada ran his own jiu-jitsu school and challenged Helio's school in 1955. There are mixed reports of what actually happened as a local Rio de Janeiro paper reported Team Gracie won. But Rayla Gracie, who wrote Carlos Sr.'s biography, stated in the book that the Fada's team won using footlock techniques, something the Gracies lacked and frowned upon ever since, calling it suburban technique. Both sides would meet again a year later on a fight card featuring Carlson Gracie and Waldemar Santana. Team Fada would win the contest. In the early 1990s, Rickson Gracie gained a lot of fame in Japan after winning Vale Tudo Japan 1. This led to Japanese pro wrestlers from a startup promotion challenging Rickson to fight them in the promotion. Rickson had no desire to fight within what he called a fixed fight promotion. Instead, he laid down a Gracie challenge to the wrestler to come to the Gracie Academy and fight him. One young Japanese wrestler named Yoji Anjo made the trip to California. He came to the academy with Japanese press members and waited for Rickson to arrive. When Rickson arrived, he let Anjo and his manager in, but not the press. Once they went inside the school, they went to the mat and the fight began. When Rickson gave an account and video of what happened, Anjo went in the match strong, but Rickson eventually won once again via a rear naked choke. Rickson and everyone there reported that he gave Anjo a vicious beating and put him to sleep. There's allegedly a video of the incident, but Rickson has never released it to the public. Another of Rickon's notable Gracie challenge matches is the one with Hugo Duarte. Duarte wanted money to fight Rickson, but Gracie decided to attack him on the beach in front of his students and Duarte had to fight. Rickson won via ground and pound, prompting Duarte to storm Rickson's dojo later on, which led to a full-blown riot with police eventually intervening. Renzo Gracie, who is one more entertaining Gracie family member, also had his fair share of controversial Gracie challenge matches. His biggest one was against Luta Livre legend Eugenio Tadeu. The match ended up with a massive brawl that also had shots fired and the arena completely demolished. The result was a ban for MMA Valetudo in Rio in the next 10 years. Similarly, during the heyday of Pride, there was a huge rivalry between Kazushi Sakuraba and the Gracie family. It started after Sakuraba beat Royler Gracie in a controversial match where Royler didn't submit. The Gracies vowed vengeance and chased after bouts with Sakuraba ever since. Kazushi would then beat Royce Gracie after a 90-minute war where Royce was too tired to keep fighting. He would then go on to beat Renzo Gracie and his brother Ryan Gracie, earning Sakuraba the name the Gracie Hunter. Royce would then win a rematch later in their careers and Rallick Gracie would also beat Sakuraba, putting the series between the two at 4-2 for Sakuraba. The UFC wasn't the Gracie family's first live broadcast of their Gracie challenge on television. They had actually attempted it 30 years prior in another event they created. This event was called Heroes do Ringue or Heroes of the Ring, a Valetudo rules show that featured the best fighters of the era. Carlson Gracie and Waldemar Santana headlined the card in one of their many matches against one another. The TV station airing the fight was appalled that this violence aired on their network. Heroes of the Ring was quickly cancelled and the Gracies wouldn't attempt anything like this again for many decades. The United States, on the other hand, had dabbled in early forms of mixed martial arts, but there was no awareness of these new fighting sports growing elsewhere in the world. That would all be changed by one man, whose arrival would herald the arrival of no-holds-barred fighting in the US and lead to the creation of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. This man was Rorion Gracie. Rorion Gracie was the eldest son of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's patriarch Helio Gracie. Rorion grew up in the art and did take part in challenge matches. But he did not take part in high-profile matches like his brothers Rickson or Royler. Rorion was young and restless, and his cousin Rolls Gracie told him stories of his visits to New York to see his mother. He did not find any martial arts school that were open to giving him time on their mats, so he had to set up his own academy. He did so using a garage, giving birth to the famous Gracie Garage. There, he started teaching and soon got a solid number of students. Rorion did have a gift for teaching, and by 17 years old, his private lessons were in high demand. As a true Gracie, Rorion decided to use the Gracie Challenge his Uncle Carlos successfully used in Brazil years before. So he issued the challenge to any martial artist that would fight him. The rules were no referee, no time limits, and no gloves. Of course, Rorion beat everyone. Soon, he started recording these matches, which turned out to be a marketing masterstroke. With the Gracie Challenge matches, Rorion's academy took off and he had to call in reinforcements in the form of Rickson, Royler, and Royce from Brazil, who came along with the Machado brothers. They all helped open academies and held even more Gracie Challenge matches, solidifying BJJ as the toughest martial art out there. By the 90s, they were a real force to be reckoned with. In the process, the American edition of the Gracie Challenge matches ended up giving birth to something else, modern MMA. Through the formation of the UFC as the biggest Gracie Challenge stage up to date, the Gracies managed to take their challenges to the TV screens, with the UFC being televised. Of course, the organization had a period of difficulties due to the no-rules format. However, the later change, giving birth to MMA in the process. Another really fascinating thing is that the Gracie challenge matches still happen nowadays from time to time. Granted, they do not feature Gracies most of the time, but the story is the same. People storm dojos, whether they're bodybuilders or martial artists, claiming they can beat the resident BJJ black belt. While these affairs are much more civil nowadays, the outcome is still the same. Jiu-Jitsu still emerges victorious in most of the cases. Plus, it makes up for great entertainment. Thank you for watching this video. That's all for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell.